We are back. Sam Seder, fun half, majority report. Emma out today, back tomorrow. Let's go to the IMs. Bexarani. Can I get a shofar? I just got an accounting job working for a local union. I am excited because the more I do accounting, the more I hate capitalism. And unions are one of the most anti-capitalist organizations I can work for.
That's awesome.
Good job.
It's apparently an accountant shortage.
Interesting. Your town is next. Sam, may I please have a shofar for my dearly departed cat, Fellini? She was a faithful pet and listener to MR alongside me until cancer took her too soon last week. My heart is showered. May we all live in fully automated luxury space communism with our animal friends forever. Left is best. Yes, I'm sorry to hear about that. I went through that. Not fun. R.I.P. Fellini. Hack all things. Plug the Poggers Twitch channel.
Oh yeah, folks, we are only a little under 14,000 followers away from 100K. So if you
let's do this,
and you're not following, it costs nothing to follow.
Costs nothing to follow, and let your friends know, and your online comrades. Let's do this on Twitch. And of course, you know, right? If you're watching us on Twitch, you can donate your Prime allotment. You don't even have to. You're already paying for it. So you can just assign it to us for the month.
Yes, Sosa S3B just resubscribed with Prime. They've been subscribed for 28 months. Also, Jetpack McQuack subscribed for 21.
Nice. Jetpack McQuack. Nice. Long time.
We never shout out the username, so people are going to love that.
Edward the Black. David Pacman says the Trump administration will soon come after left-wing media online. Are you guys protecting yourselves? I mean, this is something I've been thinking about. I'm not going to lie. I've talked to a couple of people. I'm not exactly sure what we can do. Not exactly sure what our exposure is, to be honest with you.
But check out the app.
Check out the app, obviously. I mean, it's a good thing to have the app because we can always reach you despite any other thing. The app is free, majority app. You can listen to the audio. I mean, do I think it's impossible that they could get our YouTube channel shut down? No, I don't think that's impossible. Do I think that Twitch,
Jeff Bezos
owned
just
by
gave a
Amazon,
directive.
Do I think that's impossible? No.
We love the free market, sir.
Understand. Let's put this letter up from Jeff Bezos today, just to give you a sense of of what is happening with the oligarchy. And we're not going to have the same oligarchy, let's say, that Putin has, because Putin has the ability of pushing somebody out a window, literally. And here, I don't think it's quite as naked if things like that have happened or do happen. But I also think Donald Trump has very, very much aligned interests with his billionaires. He doesn't care. I don't think Donald Trump ever cared about anything as much as, what pops into his head at any given point, what he thinks is going to help his legacy, what's going to keep him out of jail, what's going to put money in his pocket. And I would say everything is subservient to the latter. But here's Jeff Bezos. And again, we mentioned when they pulled that endorsement, I never thought that endorsement was going to help Kamala Harris, but it was indicative of how these billionaires were going to line up and what they're willing to do. Here's Jeff Bezos writing on Twitter. I still call it Twitter.
The Everything App X.
I shared this note with the Washington Post team this morning. I'm writing to let you know about a change coming to our opinion pages. We are going to be writing every day in support and defense of two pillars: personal liberties and free markets. We'll cover other topics too, of course, but viewpoints opposing those pillars will be left to be published by others. You follow this? He's becoming the Washington Free Beacon. Is that what it is? Honestly. Yeah. This is going to be Breitbart. His opinion pages are going to be Breitbart. This isn't Hannity and Combs. It's just Hannity. Nobody knows what that means. There was a time when a newspaper, especially one that was a local monopoly, might have seen it as a service to bring the reader's doorstep every morning a broad-based opinion section that sought to cover all views. Today, the internet does that job. I am of America and for America and proud to be so. Our country did not get here by being typical. And a big part of America's success has been freedom in the economic realm and everywhere else. First of all, that's absurd. That is patently absurd.
The freedom bit?
Well, you know what undercuts that? Let's just go back to the early years of America. Like our first big sort of like one of our biggest exports was something called cotton. Mm. And it made people very, very rich in the South and very rich in the North because you'd have to finance the shipments of these. Was that based on, personal liberty and economic freedoms?
Of the plantation owner.
And free markets?
That's what he means. Like there's a book, Edmund Morgan, I think, historian of slavery, that all the slave owners that were theorizing about freedom meant their freedom and economic liberty to
have slaves.
Take slaves into free states even.
You can't. They have this concept of freedom of the contract. Now, just because a contract is coerced in this instance, or the other members of they're my chattel. They can't sign a contract. Or I'm trying to think of what era it is that we had such a huge expansion. Oh, I know it. It was like the wars, the government. Or in the wake of the New Deal, when we had things like an imposed 40-hour work week, imposed overtime pay, imposed weekend, imposed child labor laws, 90% taxation. If this guy made his money in this country 80 years ago, every dollar over $3 million that he made annually, he would pay 90 cents on that dollar. Taxes. And a big part of America's success has been freedom in the economic realm and everywhere else. Freedom is ethical. It minimizes coercion. And practical. It drives creativity, invention, and prosperity. Freedom. In other words, no constraints of me as a billionaire in the way that I operate in the business realm. It minimizes coercion. Really? Do you think so? What kind of negotiation can you have with a billionaire where you think that you are not being coerced? How much do you think, let me put it this way, the people who work at the Washington Post, who rely on their job and their health insurance, and they have a mortgage, do you think that their freedom in negotiating with a billionaire is not coercive? That their freedom, they are not coercive? That this billionaire's freedom to do this? Give me a break. I offered David Shipley whom I greatly admire, the opportunity to lead this new chapter. I suggested to him that if the answer wasn't hell yes, then it had to be no. After careful consideration, David decided to step away. This is a significant shift. It won't be easy. It will require 100% commitment. I respect his decision. We'll be searching for a new opinion editor to own this new direction, essentially just right-wing opinion. I'm confident that free markets and personal liberties are right for America. I also believe these viewpoints are underserved in the current market of ideas and news opinion.
So I, as a billionaire, will be subsidizing it by taking over one of the papers of record in this country.
I'm excited for us together to fill that void. I mean, when are we hearing from Sulzberger? New York Times agree?
They actually said that they were a capitalist paper about 5 years or so ago.
Well, they're going to get rid of, why don't they change their opinion section?
Yeah.
What was it? Freedom it dies in, what is it? Dies in the darkness?
Democracy dies in the darkness. This is Jeff Bezos like 5 or so years ago when he's asked how he can spend so much money.
So what does money mean for you, being the first person in history that has a net worth of 3-digit amount of billion?
The only way that I can see to deploy this much financial resource is by converting my Amazon winnings into space travel. The Blue Origin is expensive enough to be able to use that fortune. And I'm currently liquidating about $1 billion a year of Amazon stock to fund Blue Origin. And I plan to continue.
Didn't he also say when he took over he wasn't going to influence the paper? Well,
Yeah.
you know what happens to these guys? You can actually see it in them physically. Like I saw a clip of Bobby Kennedy 20 years ago, back when I used to work with him, and it was great. It was a great clip. But you could see the physicality difference.
Right.
Like, wait a second, what happens between the ages of 50 and 70 that you, like, your jaws get, and your mandible, like, and, like, you...
Start turning into Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, what, like, when's that happening to me? When do I start getting the, cut for the first time in my life? When's that start happening? Honestly, these guys are just so hopped up.
Yeah.
On whatever it is, roids or testosterone or whatever it is they're pumping. I'm not being facetious here. That it affects their brains.
Yeah.
Left this big mop plug. Have you covered the FDA guidance documents that were removed from the website, edited and replaced of last month? They were guidances that have been edited to now remove the mentions of gender and other changes to MedWatch forms, which are how adverse events are tracked. Extremely concerning changes that could happening that could affect everyone, especially trans and non-binary patients. I can call in to share more details if helpful. 202 area code. And we'll keep our eyes open. It's just unbelievable. Well, don't worry. We have a political party that is out there that is going to be fighting for us, ladies and gentlemen, that understands that we are in a moment of rising fascism, that understands that we need to meet the moment, that Donald Trump and this assault by the Republican Party and this oligarchy is unique and in many ways unprecedented, at least in the past 100 years. Maybe not 100 years, let's say 80 or 90, right? Because there was an attempted march plot against FDR. At least we have that kind of democratic leader. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Hakeem Jeffries on with Stephen A. Smith. Talking about how he sees the unique danger that is presented by the right. Oh, wait, no, actually, no.
Anybody worth their salt will tell you the extreme left had a lot to do with pulling y'all back from the momentum one would argue you had, obviously, in 2020? What about pushing back against your own party?
Pause it for a second. I want you to think about this.
What the hell was that question?
That premise. Go back just a little bit so we can get that whole question. Don't come in the middle of a question. Let's always get the start of a question. Stephen A. Now, he's going to say, you had this momentum in 2020, and the extreme left did something over the past 4 years? Like, what did the extreme left do? If anything, the height of what Stephen A. Smith would call the extreme left's power was actually during the 2020 election, where Joe Biden had to respond to a BLM movement. And again, I wouldn't call this extreme left, but I'm saying from their perspective.
Right.
BLM movement, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, who were strong enough that they were able to put their own people in labor and in
Lena Khan, one of the last.
Antitrust. I mean, I don't know how else you would manage, it would even assess this, but that was the peak of the left, and everything changed, with Jeff Zients, as you got further in, the extreme left, max left, whatever you want to call it, had less power.
It was when Biden said, "Hey, let's bring all these mansion and cinema."
6 months into to 2021.
Yeah.
But let's hear. I'm sure Hakeem Jeffries will push back on that.
In the Congress, in the courts, and in the community.
What about aggressively pushing back for the far left? Because they lost you the election. See, I'm thinking about winning. Representative Jeffries, I'm thinking about winning. I'm like, okay, the midterm is incredibly important. We got Musk, that some people think is running the damn country, and I'll get back to him in a second with some of the stuff that he's doing that you've alluded to earlier, right? But I'm also thinking about what lost you the election. I'm going to repeat. 77 million votes. He beat Kamala Harris by over 2.5 million votes. He won the Electoral College vote, the popular vote, all the swing states. I mean, he gave her a run for money in New York.
I'll pause it now. Listen, honestly, there is an argument that Harris should not have been out there campaigning, alongside the Marxist professors that she was, and these massive leaders of the left, like she did. Instead, she should have been campaigning with someone like, I don't know, Liz Cheney. Or Mark Cuban. Why not campaign with Mark Cuban? Why not make Mark Cuban a surrogate? Instead of, some radical professor, writing about communism. Right? Why not do that? Why not campaign with Mark Cuban and Liz Cheney?
Who because you're a basketball guy, right, Stephen A.?
Go ahead.
Swing states. I mean, he gave her a run
Or
for
pause
money
it.
in New
Or
York.
what you could have done is send Richie Torres to Michigan. Or Bill Clinton to Michigan. Send those people. Don't send, don't
have Rashida Tlaib be a supporter.
Yeah. Come on. I just care about winning. Go ahead.
Look, they gained ground in California. Anybody worth their salt will tell you the extreme left had a lot to do with pulling y'all back from the momentum one would argue you had, obviously, in 2020. What about pushing back against your own party?
Well, listen, the extreme left protests me more than they protest Donald Trump. Because literally, wherever I go. So I think in part because I've declined, I've refused, I've chosen not to bend the knee to either people on the far left, and certainly not to Donald Trump and the far right. We all have a responsibility.
So wait, he must be right in the middle between Republicans and Democrats. Yeah. Right? I mean, if he's like, there, he's equally away from both. He must be right between Democrats and Republicans. Is he an independent? He's got to be an independent. I don't get it.
Right in the middle ticking.
Why he should? That's honestly. We would be so much better if he declared being an independent. In fact, all the Democrats in the House should change their affiliation to being independent. That way, they're not associated with the Democratic Party. I'm just spitballing here. I'm just trying to bring out what Democratic Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is saying is want to be associated with the left. You should be an independent.
Trump and the far right. We all have a responsibility to serve the people we were elected to represent and the country and the Constitution. And I certainly have not been bashful and will not be bashful in disagreeing with people who are trying to take this country in a direction that doesn't lift everybody up, whether that comes from the right or whether that comes from the far left.
Pause it for a second. Okay, the far left. These far lefties who don't want to lift everybody up. Like, what is he talking about? Like the Brooklyn types? Right? Like Brooklyn types? He's got to represent his people, folks. He's not you Brooklyn podcaster types with your liberal. Will you show people where his district is? Okay? Because the Brooklyn podcast, the Brooklyn lefty, extreme leftists, you know, in like, what's that, the extreme lefty area of Brooklyn where they all hang out? Like, what is it? Like Bushwick? Okay, let's look at, okay, yeah. All the extreme lefties in the, you know, wait, what? Huh. What is that? What is that big chunk there? No, zoom in a little bit there for me. Huh, interesting. Oh, part of that appears to be Brooklyn. In fact, what percentage would you say is that Brooklyn? All?
Yeah, I don't know if there's
100%? He's just representing his people, not the far left.
And his major donors, APAC, Lockheed Martin, and what's the other one? Was it BlackRock? Yeah.
Oh, well, Lockheed Martin, he's
No hipsters there.
He's got JFK Airport. Notice. Oh, interesting. Damn.
Man, Stephen A. Smith sucks too. I think people should be sparing.
Have people been like pushing him for something?
Well, he's doing a lot of politics stuff now, and he's getting some, I mean, interesting things out of Democrats, like this Hakeem Jeffries thing here, where he says he's fighting the left and the right, as people are upset with him for not fighting the right enough.
This is sort of fascinating. So DOGE is in court. They were in front of Judge Colleen Collar-Cotley in D.C. District Court. This case is, what was this case here specifically?
Alliance for Retired Americans versus Bezos.
Yeah, okay. And this is a case against the Secretary of the Treasury, presumably for payments. And the judge is asking some basic questions, figure out, who's been doing what. The Alliance for Retired Americans also may be a little bit concerned about, like, hey, what kind of information are you giving to DOGE? Like, why would they have this information? And so the judge says, I have some questions on DOGE's organizational structure. It seems a little opaque. On January 19th of this year, prior to the Trump, there was Where was USDS located within the federal bureaucracy? Was it OMB, as I understand it? And USDS is what? The U.S. Department...
It was the Digital Service.
Digital Service, right,
DOGE
which became DOGE. Yeah. Incidentally, 21 of those tech people in the U.S. Digital Services quit yesterday because they're like, we're not using our expertise to F with the government. We were hired to help the government, not destroy it. And Humphreys says that I need to confer with my colleagues to find out where that department was within the federal bureaucracy, find out who did it. Some of this is obviously factual information. I would hope the government would know, the judge says. And Humphrey says, I can check on that, Your Honor. Okay, let me get back to it. Do you know where in the federal bureaucracy DOGE was located in January 19th? Was it a component of OMB? And the lawyer says, I do believe that's correct, Your Honor. And the judge says, okay, and the administrator of USDS, the U.S. Digital Services, or now known as DOGE at that point, was a Schedule C employee. Schedule C employee basically means that you are a type of civil servant who serves, who is subject to civil servant rules and hiring and firing requirements, et cetera, et cetera. And Humphreys, the government lawyer, says, I don't know the answer, Your Honor. The judge says, do you know anything about who was in charge when it was at OMB? Humphreys, no, Your Honor. Later, the judge says, okay, what I'm getting at is that I understand it was a component of OMB. At this point, there doesn't appear to be an administrator. But I'll get to that. When it was with OMB, I take it that it did have an administrator who was a Schedule C government employee. Humphreys, the lawyer. I don't have that information at this time.
Ask the moms.
Okay. I'm going to just do the judge now. Does anyone else know at the table? She's pointing to all the... this would have been before it was relocated to the executive office of the president. Humphreys, we don't have that information, Your Honor. Okay, that's okay. I realize you may not have prepared for this. Okay, so now USDS, now DOGE, has been renamed. It's been relocated out of OMB to the executive office of the president, and an administrator of DOGE reports to the White House chief of staff. Is that correct at this point? Humphreys, that is the terms of the executive order. Okay, is the administrator of the USDS, now DOGE, still a Schedule C employee position? I don't know. On February 17th, the Justice Department represented to Judge Tanya Chutkin that Mr. Musk is not the administrator of DOGE. Is that correct? Humphreys, that is correct. So if I have to decide at some point what role Mr. Musk has in DOGE, what representation do I provide? He's not the administrator. He obviously has a role. What is his position? He's not the administrator. He's not an employee, as I understand it, of DOGE. But he seems to be speaking on behalf of DOGE. So can you tell me what his role is? Humphreys, I don't believe that issue is presented in the pleadings. But with that caveat, my understanding is that Mr. Musk is a close advisor to the president. However, for our purposes, the inquiry flows from the president to the Secretary of Treasury, who then oversees Mr. Krause through the chief of staff. But where is Mr. Musk in all this? I don't have any other further information. He's a close advisor to the president, which then under the president's authority goes to the Secretary of Treasury and then down to Treasury. Judge says, so as an advisor, would Musk be in some other employment category? Humphreys, I'm not aware. Okay, so there is an administrator of DOGE at the present time. Humphreys, I don't know the answer to that. You don't know whether there is an administrator? Is that what you're saying? I'm saying I don't know. Okay, everybody at the table over there, speak up if you know anything else. I mean, I have to say, the government represented to the judge in the Eastern District of Virginia that there is, quote, a acting USDS, that's now known as DOGE, administrator.
In all our hearts.
And obviously, the executive order creating DOGE says there's a USDS or DOGE administrator. So isn't there some problem? If there's no administrator as to how DOGE functions, who supervises them? How do they come up with ideas? I mean, if you've got employees that are with DOGE that are working with Treasury, who's telling them what to do if there's no administrator? Humphrey responds he doesn't think it's relevant to the plaintiff's claims. Here is some actual audio of that exchange that was taking place. Can we just play the audio? Just play the audio. Listen carefully.
Team, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third. That's what I want to find out. I want you to tell me the names of the fellas on the St. Louis team. I'm telling you, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third. You know the fellas' names? Yes. Well, then who's playing first? Yes. I mean the fellow's name on first base. Who? The fellow playing first base for St. Louis. Who? The guy on first base. Who is on first?
Okay, now we can hear from Caroline Leavitt, who is in the wake of that exchange with a judge where the government lawyer could not name an administrator of DOGE. So never mind like what DOGE is doing is patently both statutorily and constitutionally illegal under the Impoundment Control Act and in Train v. New York. Nobody seems to know who is running it. Here's the Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary.
About a federal judge yesterday was saying that they didn't know who the DOGE administrator was and was asking the lawyer for the administration who it was, and the lawyer responded, I don't know the answer to that. Can you tell us who the administrator of DOGE is?
Again, I've been asked and answered this question. Elon Musk is overseeing DOGE. There are Elon Musk is a special government employee, which I've also been asked and have answered that question as well. There are career officials at DOGE. There are political appointees at DOGE. I'm not going to reveal the name of that individual from this podium. I'm happy to follow up and provide that to you, but we've been incredibly transparent about the way that DOGE is working.
They don't know who the administrator is.
There's an overseer. His name's Elon, but
there's an overseer, but they don't know who literally is running DOGE. They don't know. She's so pissed. I'm not going to reveal that from here. You know why you're not going to reveal it? Because you don't know the answer.
Yeah, you need to think of a lot.
Because you guys forgot to name somebody who was in charge of it. Because you named Elon Musk, and he realized, like, wait a second. If I'm a U.S. government official, I probably have some requirements that I may not want to meet. Are there drug checks on those guys? Am I not allowed to use blow if I'm an administrator? There is nobody running DOGE, supposedly. Nobody officially accountable within the structure of our government.
Transparency is awesome.
So awesome. I love democracy.
So transparent, you look right through who should be accountable.
646-257-3920. 646-257-3920 is the number. If you want to be part of the show, we will take your phone calls. Donald Trump posted this on his Truth Social account. This is, I almost want to say a trigger warning. This is incredibly disturbing and effed up. I don't know if he thinks of it as a joke or a vision or just a different way of like dehumanizing people. I really honestly, I don't know what to make of this.
It's in line with the ASMR deportation video that the White House posted. I don't know if you saw that. You might have been out, but they posted a video. ASMR is this like online.
I know what ASMR.
They did a video of like chains that shackle people up.
Like the migrants taking steps onto the plane and stuff like that.
And they called it ASMR. Like this is just fascist stuff.
This is, I guess, Donald Trump's fever dream as to what Gaza could be. It could go from essentially ethnic cleansing, genocide, to ethnic cleansing, but just
with properties.
With properties.
Tunnels coming to set you free, bringing the light for all to see. No more tunnels, no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza number one. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza number one.
Who paid for that?
He and apparently BB sitting at the pool.
Yeah. There you go. Insane. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, not buoyed by the Republicans calling for a $4.5 trillion tax cut for wealthy people, and not buoyed enough by the idea of ripping healthcare away from low-income people, elderly, literally births, right? 40% of births in this country covered by Medicaid. 2/3 of our elderly in nursing homes covered by Medicaid. Trump ecstatic that his one big beautiful bill that would cut Medicaid by $800 billion wants to generate more wealth inequality in this country and increase the size of the oligarchic class. And you know the way that these American firsters are. You want more Americans to become millionaires, right? Actually, no. How about we just let more millionaires become Americans? I give you Donald Trump.
Something else that's going to be very, very good. We're going to be selling a gold card. You have a green card. This is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship. And wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card. They'll be wealthy, and they'll be successful, and they'll be spending a lot of money and paying a lot of taxes and employing a lot of people. And we think it's going to be extremely successful. And never been done before or anything like this, but it's something that we're going to be putting out over the next, would you say 2 weeks out? Do you want to say a couple of words about it?
I mean, it's never been done in this country. It's been done in other countries who desperately want foreign investment to come into their country, buy up their properties.
Works out so well for them.
Every new millionaire that comes into New York City is going to raise the cost of your rent.
And they'll vote against your interests. And pay for politicians that go against your interests. I mean, talk about replacing voters.
This is the populist movement that we heard so much about. Except for this populism, again, is one that is just really about nativism, except for unless you get money.
Yep. I mean, that's the same thing. A lot of these people, they support crypto while saying we need to have a militarized border because money can move across borders however much you want, but
right.
People actually we need to like have a Starship Troopers-esque Gestapo harassing them.
I mean, just amazing. You can't have citizenship if you're born in this country.
Right.
But if you pay $5 million, get your Trump card. I mean,
it's almost a parody.
It honestly is so close to a parody. It would be funny if not. So disturbing. Calling from a 970 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi there, is this me?
Yes, this is you.
I'm Mimi calling from Colorado.
Mimi from Colorado. What's on your mind?
I just had a quick one because I'm actually at work right now, but needed some advice. So I am, of course, a leftist. My family are all very, very conservative. My parents and brother are actually evangelical ministers. I guess I'm at the point where they've traditionally loved Steve Bannon and the War Room, and well, he's a Nazi. And I'm at the point, I suppose, where we don't discuss politics whatsoever anymore reasonably, I think, because our last discussion ended with me saying I see the merits in Marxism, and then my parents, of course, in conservative fashion, crying and yelling and everything. So I guess I'm at the point where I've stayed because of my nieces and the little ones in my family who I don't want to leave, and I love them, but I'm at that point where I just wonder, when do I reach the cutoff point? And I'll take advice offline. Thank you very much.
Okay. I mean, I don't know what you gain by cutting off your parents, other than, listen, obviously, if you need to do it for your own mental sanity and health. But I don't know. I feel like there's value in just sort of keep planting seeds. And it sounds like you upset them more than they upset you. Now, It's hard because it's hard for me to sort of answer this question, because if I was in a dynamic where I'm upsetting somebody more than they're upsetting me, I would enjoy it. But I realize that's a psychological defect I have. So I would only do it if it becomes just too hard on you, psychologically speaking. But you're not going to teach them a lesson. They're just going to assume like you've been brainwashed by, reading your Marxism or whatever it is. You could take the tact if they, watch Bannon and go like, oh, I bet Bannon's really upset about a lot of this stuff. How could you? It sounds like Bannon's sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Yeah. Like he is heavily invested in supporting Trump, but it's pretty clear that Trump is not doing any of the things that Bannon likes, like cutting Medicaid, even though he hates Medicaid, but he does know that a lot of Trump voters are on Medicaid. And he can't be happy about selling. You're going to sell American citizenship? Doesn't that cheapen it? You sell American citizenship like that? Wow. I mean, that's what I would do. But, so I don't know. You're sort of on your own with this one.
Yeah, I think, but it's mainly personal more than political if you decide to cut people off. And
right.
It is more of less of a Socratic dialogue that you should be looking for than more of a dissemination method, a la, yeah.
H. John Seder, can you explain the possible next steps with the budget? Government shutdown possibility? Okay, look, again, we have two separate budget processes going on right now. The one they voted on yesterday is for the budget for 2026. But we don't have a budget for 2025. They're not going to be able to come up with a new budget for 2025. It's basically going to be what they call a continuing resolution, which means it will still be operating under the old budget. Now, maybe they can make some changes here and there, but they probably won't. they're going to need Democratic votes to pass a continuing resolution. If they don't get him, the government shuts down. I am of the opinion and the mind that Democrats should say, you're going to be responsible for this government shutdown. We'll help you if you shut down DOGE. Two separate processes going on. The deadline on the 13th of March has nothing to do with what was voted on last night. Let's just do this just because I tweeted this. People were very upset about this. Supposedly Donald Trump is going to release all of the files, right? Has he released the JFK stuff yet?
No.
I don't know what's taking so long.
Turns out that's more of a bargaining chip when he talks about that stuff than actual promise.
Well, but he's going to release, what was the other stuff that he was going to release?
Oh, the Epstein files?
No, the other one, the UFO stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is that released?
Right, yeah.
No? Oh, okay. Well, we know he's going to release the Epstein files, right? Because why wouldn't you? Now, there is a story going around that supposedly there are FBI agents who are destroying all these files. It's almost as if they're trying to start this story as to why they can't release these files because they can't exist.
The dogs are eating the homework everywhere.
Yes, the dogs are eating the homework. We've got people who are destroying these files. Really? How did you catch those people? Who are they? Oh, you're not going to tell us? Oh, okay. Well, maybe you should just grab those files from them and release them. Everybody knows that Donald Trump is going to release the Epstein files. Why wouldn't he? And, there was a funny thing about the editing of an interview, apparently, that happened with Fox. Fox had interviewed him about this. And this was back in July of 2024. And Fox cut it in a way where they asked him, will you release the Epstein files? And Trump said, yeah. And then they cut away. And apparently there was other things that he said after that sound a little bit weird and may explain why he's not going to.
Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah. I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
Pause it. Pause it. Okay, and that's where they cut for the original interview. Oh, okay. Yeah, 9/11. Yeah, JFK. I actually released a lot of it. No, I didn't. And yeah, Epstein. Yeah. Okay. Go back just a little bit and find out what the rest of that answer is. Because in common parlance, this is what we call that. Go ahead.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah. I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would, or at least
do you think that would restore trust? Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others.
What an odd thing to
Yeah, keep going. Yeah,
that's it. I didn't know you were going to be talking about this.
It's almost like
he's an Epstein associate.
Well, it's almost like he's setting it up to if we did release it and there were names in there, I wouldn't believe it.
It's nuanced.
I wouldn't believe those names because they're probably fake. Yeah. That's the thing. All the files that we have are probably fake. So I wouldn't. Why would we? I mean, I could release them, but it's all fake stuff anyways. So you wouldn't want to believe that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fake stuff in that file.
People get confused.
I know this is a confusing thing, but A, B, C, D, E for Epstein, F for fake is sometimes those files, the fake files, commingle with the Epstein files. So it's hard to know which is which in the files. So I would, yeah, but not so much. So for MAGA, that is curious as to why we haven't seen the Epstein files yet. Maybe the reason is because it's all fake, the files.
Yeah, could be.
Could be.
What's this? Jeffrey Epstein set Elon Musk's brother up with a girlfriend. That's interesting.
Weird.
I wonder what they talked about if it was inseminating dozens of people.
Jared from New York. Love the show. Listening on the app is tedious. Playback starts and stops constantly.
Really?
Is that buffering on my end? Hate having to go to Spotify. Missed the fun out. Send us an email at majorityreporters@gmail.com and tell us what phone and operating system and version you're using. And we will send that to tech. Tim Pool, you're having an emotional breakdown right now.
You are having an emotional breakdown right now. You can't even make an argument anymore, can you?
Ernie's Burns poet. Hasn't Harris got actual standing to sue Fox for the same reasons that Trump is suing NBC?
That's what crossed my mind.
But the thing is, that suit with CBS is BS, and everybody knows it. Yeah. And I think CBS, once they decided, didn't somebody say the other day, now that they're not going to pursue the merger, that they've decided, okay, now we don't have to pay them? It was all just going to be a payout. Calling from a 612 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 612. 612.
Hello, is that me?
Yes, it is you.
Well, hi, Sam Seder. This is Laura from Minneapolis.
Laura from Minneapolis.
How's it going?
Good. How you doing? What's on your mind?
You know, it's a weighted question these days. We've been
Yes.
talking about that a lot in my family and my community, but it feels kind of pandemic-y, not going to lie.
Wait till the bird flu
Well, I'm so glad to talk. What was that?
Wait till the bird flu shows up.
Oh, my God. You know, we actually have chickens. Thank God. Those egg prices, man.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm a social psychologist, actually, who writes on the psychology of sustainable revolution. And I had a couple thoughts on a follow-up from the Kelly Carter Jackson interview on why joy is important for the revolution.
Okay.
And so, excuse me, I was thinking about how joy, like psychologically, it's an emotion that serves kind of like a catalyst. It really pulls us towards people and places and like situations that allow space for us to be our authentic selves. So it really drives us to meet our basic need for connection with other people. So really, in a way, you could argue that joy is really needed to fuel the revolution in a way, because it really is what cues to other people what it is we value. And without it, there's like a lot less community, because it really cues to each other like who it is we trust. But the thing is about joy is that a lot of situational factors kind of have to align for us to be able to experience it psychologically. And the biggest one being a sense of safety, both physically and psychologically. So I was thinking about how you and Kelly Carter Jackson were talking about the Black Panthers like only being considered a real threat when the white people started noticing, you know, a lot of people, they got scared of Black people who are well-fed and educated. I don't know if you remember that comment, but I was thinking about how, you know, it's a lot scarier than well-fed, educated Black people is well-fed, educated, joyful Black people, right? You know, as a social threat, because joyful people are really connected to each other, and there's serious strength in numbers. So anyway, for what it's worth, I thought I would just call and give a couple reasons to why it's really important to prioritize joy, even in the face of fear, which is another thing I feel like the Black community really excels at, right? Is being able to pull together and imagine a future with joy for everyone, and like a future where everyone feels safe and secure enough to be able to experience it. Because it's really what allows us to be creative, and kind of, it's that part of our brains that are like opens up our imagination and allows us to picture something, I don't know, different from what it is that we're experiencing now.
Let me ask you this. I am not very good at that. Do you have any recommendations?
You know, Sam, you're not the only one. So typically when I talk to people about this, they say the exact same thing. And I'm like, yeah, what do you do for fun? And they're like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what that feels like. And typically what I tell people, if you're not really sure where to start, it's really a good place to start just by trying to do something creative. And for some people, it's music. You know, music is kind of an easy one if, you know, dance is your thing, or if you play music in some way, or just like to sing music or listen to it. Some people, it's just painting or coloring or folding paper in a weird way, right? That's my son's thing. And so it's just doing something with your hands that is just for that process. There's something, you know, really deep and neurological about creativity that I could go off on a much bigger, longer tangent about that I won't. But creativity, if you just kind of engage with it, it actually unlocks, it's kind of that channel, that psychological channel to get to joy.
All right. Well, I'll give it a try.
Yeah. Yeah. And then can I just give one quick comment to the previous caller too about kind of what to do with like parents who feel really far, like people who you love and care about who just feel so far away from you.
Yeah.
Psychological, like, you know, like in values and beliefs and even reality, it kind of feels like. I just want to emphasize the importance of doing our own work to be prepared to hold space for people who feel very far away from us right now in this moment that I know are going to have a really difficult time in the coming years.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, even sooner, it seems like, and just making sure we're just staying grounded and taking care of our own needs and being ready to not have that, like, I told you so, or like a resentment, because it really is going to take all of us to like change what's happening here. So that's kind of where I've been recommending people start, is if you don't really know, just take care of yourself and try to do that work.
Appreciate the call.
Anyway.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Bye. All right. Let's try one more caller. 516 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Is this me?
Yes, it's you.
Hi. My name is Max. I'm from New York.
Max from New York. What's on your mind?
So I don't know if you've talked about this yet. This is a kind of a little bit, 20 days old or so, a little bit less, 19. Do you remember the Scrutiny versus U.S. case in the Supreme Court?
Yes. Scrutiny.
Yeah.
Jeez, it feels like it was a lot longer ago than that.
Well, no. So the hearing was on December 4th, but on February 7th, there was a letter of petitioner filed from the Trump admin.
Yeah.
And they were talking about, it was expected that they were going to change the decision, right? That, they don't believe it violates the Equal Protection Clause.
This is whether a federal ban on trans health care for minors under the age of 18. I want to say also it was like 19.
So he did sign an executive order for 19, but this is from the Tennessee ban.
Okay.
Specifically.
Yeah, whether that ban is unconstitutional under the 14th Amendment. In fact, who did we interview about this? The issue was whether the protections under the 14th Amendment, where you're not allowed to discriminate based upon sex.
Right, and they use a similar argument to Bostock.
Right. If you are preventing this type of medical care, it is necessarily based upon the sex of the person, because you're basically saying that they can't in any way. It's too bound up in the question of sex. And we interviewed Ian Millhiser about it. I guess it was in early December. Yeah.
It was those were some great interviews, I would say. But the thing is, so it was known that the Trump admin would change their position on this. But what I found surprising was they still told the Supreme Court they recommended the Supreme Court to continue and to not dismiss the case and force the plaintiffs to file again because they only provided the writ of certiorari to the U.S. government in December. And so why I'm worried about it is maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I feel like if you're the Trump admin, the only reason you would say we want your ruling on this is if you believe that it's going to be in your favor. And I'm not sure if I'm reading too much into it or what your thoughts on that is, or.
I don't know. I don't know. It could be that they want to figure out how they're going to press forward with different things. I think also, to be honest with you, when they when they're in a jam, their go-to is anti-trans stuff. And so I think it is. I think they want to keep it in the forefront as much as possible. That's the only thing I could think.
Right.
And listen, if the Supreme Court stands in the way, it's just as effective for them. Because then they get to, keep trying to do it other ways and keep the issue in front of their people, because that's right. I mean, that's why they started with the DEI. That's why they started with the USAID. When they talk about USAID, what is it? You having trans parties in Uganda. I mean, this is
a distraction, you're saying?
I mean, it is the sort of it is as a political matter, it is the thing that gets their base engaged.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's just because I was a little bit hopeful because, the Gorsuch wrote the majority opinion in the Bostock case, and it feels to me, who's not a lawyer at all,
right?
Just feels very similar. But I don't know. This got me a little bit worried, and listening to the hearing did not, fill me with confidence. So
I wouldn't feel confident about anything, but we're going to find out. But I appreciate the call.
It's going to be in the summer. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm a fan of the show. All
right. Bye.
Bye.
I am left of the box. Please plug my YouTube video. Ontario has 99 problems. Doug Ford is all of them. The Ontario election is tomorrow, and it is so important for people to vote. Having any other party in power will save lives. Can we put that in the podcast and YouTube description? The YouTube video. Ontario has 99 problems. Doug Ford is all of them. Election in Ontario, Canada tomorrow. Check out Left of the Box for more info on that. Folks, we're out of time for calls. I'm sorry. That sound signifies that I did not manage the clock well. It's going to take weeks, if not months, for us to sort of settle in to the new pace of things. I mean, and I don't expect that it's going to get easier soon. I specifically remember 2017, the first week that there was a slow news week happened to be the week that Mike Cernovich dug up my tweet. And that was on November 28th, because he did it on my birthday, which turned out, honestly, to be one of the best birthday presents I've ever gotten in my
you've been
entire
skyrocketing since
freaking life. Cannot tell you.
Moved us into a new stratosphere.
People say, oh, you must really love the Trump years. No, I don't. The only thing I really, the most joy I had was that week. That week was so fun. Meg MCA, did you say there's a kitten? Is there a new Majority Report kitten? Yes. I did not get. I was not involved in the naming. The name of the kitten is Griffin. And it was because apparently my son decided that the cat was a fan of Family Guy, which I've never watched. In fact, his father is on a different cartoon, which apparently he doesn't watch. But and apparently the cat's favorite character was Griffin. I don't know. Don't expect me to explain this. I don't understand it. Ramona Frankenstein. Listen, as a trans woman, I'm going to say that every trans party I've been to has been lit. I imagine Ugandan trans parties are equally lit. You better believe that punch is spiked with estradiol. Kowalski from Nebraska. This is outrageous. Double the membership fees and have a second majority report at 8 p.m. We have to cover more. John from San Antonio and I will host. It'll be great. Marijuana time. I just saw Trump's Gaza video. Holy shit. We are officially the worst country in the history again. Left is best. Rachel Frank. The State Department is talking about permanently banning trans athletes from entering the country because having a gender marker other than assigned at birth is a fraud. No reason to believe that won't be applied to all trans people. And in between that and dismissing trans people from the military, being trans is inherently dishonorable. This reasoning can go to some seriously dark places. It already is. Hitchens Ghost. I've carefully crafted my life such that I enjoyed financial security and job security by serving the public and getting a military pension. It's all crumbling because most of my friends and loved ones were willfully duped. Make it make sense. Retired Air Force here, multiple deployments to multiple theaters, current federal worker, currently at Mayo Clinic with a sick wife, Medicare in use, 405 area code. We'll look for you tomorrow, sorry. Sorry. CJ. So what can we do to try and stop this? AOC mentioned putting pressure on the Commerce Committee. There are things that they can do. Well, maybe we'll get into that on Friday. There is some leverage. There's not a huge amount of leverage. There is some. Number 13, white people are wild. Everyone wants to disagree with Nazism until it's your own family, huh? What a sink.
I think you always disagree with Nazism. I think it's the cutting off all contact with people out of a political stance that, you know.
I mean, listen, it's cutting off, like, there are a lot of people I would cut off relationships with. And frankly, like, you know, my family relationships, some of them have been hurt by what's going on in Gaza. It is, but also, like, you know, for me personally, I feel like I have a better opportunity to change their perspectives. And so I hang in there and do that. But not because of what their perspective is, but because of my pre-existing relationship with them. Like, you know, if I was to meet someone who held these same views at a party, which is an extreme hypothetical because that would require me going to parties. But let's say somehow I got lost and I was at a party and I was talking to someone who had those views. I do not think I would do that because it's like, it's just not, the return on investment's not there. I don't think I have as much of an opportunity to change their mind. And I have no other basis for a relationship with them. And I would say pass. So I think it's a different answer depending on, you know, A, what your own personal, like, psychological tolerance is for that. And B, how proximate, or what kind of close proximacy you have to them.
Yeah. And I mean, my experience, debating things like diversity and stuff with North Dakotans, I get in fights with aunts, and I've gotten fights with aunts and uncles at things like Thanksgiving. It's not for their benefit because, partially I don't really care if I see some of them ever again, but for the my cousins that are there that are pretty much all younger than me, I do feel a need to make those points clear. And I think that I like doing that, frankly. And I like bullying some of my aunts and uncles about how much they rate, say, trans participation in sports for their vote.
Social conservative, fiscal liberal, vis-a-vis the joy collar, having a kidding on the square thing that we could do a lot of good by reviving the federal theater project. It would be basically a rounding error in the budget. King of all IMers. Wow, I had no idea David Sedaris knew so much about the federal courts. Edward the Black. Do you think we Americans sit back and let this government become fascist, or will there be an organized civilian violent resistance? I don't know. Naomi. Any commentary on the State Department announcement yesterday about visas for transgender people visiting the U.S.? I'm concerned that the argument they use, that putting gender other than your birth sex in the visa application is a fraud, could be generalized and weaponized against transgender Americans, without a doubt. They're already doing this with U.S. passports. It's dangerous. It's scary. Mikey Love. Elon's whole career and image is based on the stolen valor from the actual smart people who work for those companies. JR in Philly. The only way to spend this much money is to build a large statue of myself that is made of something very expensive. John Crane. On YouTube, your audio is blinking in and out. Maybe we had a problem with our audio today. MJS 617. Whoa. Sam, that Bezos letter is just a rehash of all the free market propaganda the private sector was spewing in the run-up to the New Deal. It's coordinated and utterly insincere propaganda. All right, 5 more. Emma's distant cousin. Thanks to Jeffries, this is what people, what think people in Brooklyn sound like. Hey, I'm a far left in podcasting over here. Oh, got to go protest this. The guy doing the thing. Shadow banned. I would suggest to the caller, if their parents are Christian, they should read the Gospels. It will drive conservative Christians insane. 3 more. Jared from New York. Oh, I already did that. Glass Seagull. Did you see Tim Pool announce the birth of his child? The whole thing was a dig at trans people and prominently featured the R word. Tell me he doesn't have the diseased brain of a 14-year-old. Can we find that?
I have not seen that.
Rob from Dedham. Just figured out how to use my Twitch Prime sub. Also, F. Jeff Bezos. My only request is to use this sub to buy the crew some of Worcester's famous Table Talk pies. These are amazing. They're small pies. You've seen them at the bodega. The small Table Talk pies. Really?
In bodegas?
Yeah.
I'm actually not in bodegas all that often.
All right. Also, shofar request for my daughter, Sylvia, who turns 1 today. I haven't thought about Table Talk pies for a long time. 2 more. M. Bear. Sam Crew, I am directly related to the current administrator of the SSA, and I have been trying to reach you via emails. I have multiple contacts in the agency as well as direct communication with the administrator and would love to discuss things. that are going on the agency. I'm willing to verify. Thank you. Ooh, we will check that out. We'll look in the emails. I'm sorry. Friday. Just try and bump us one more time and just put, from the chat today, from the IM today. And the final IM of the day. Johnny Blaze, people need to be more willing to viscerally fight with their own family. Just don't be willing to avoid the subject. F that. I mean, that's never been a problem for me.
Yeah,
it's a fight with the family. If anything, it's the opposite.
I love it.
I love to tell people they're stupid and shouldn't have an opinion. That's really the main solution. Getting Republicans and neoliberalism to realize they're a borderline.
I support myself in New York City with my politics opinions. I basically bully people.
That's a job. But dumbass engineers, it's unfortunate how the personality distribution hits the engineering field, because engineers really ought to do everything for everyone in society and just let everyone play on the playground with UBI. But dumbass engineers are whole, aren't smart enough not to do Ayn Rand shit. Matt, Bradley, Emma, and Absentia, great job today. Folks, we'll see you tomorrow.